Interrobang, I'm Gracia Espinosa, and welcome to a new episode of the Red Couch Podcast. Today we have another special guest from our team, Konstantinos Drossos, our reporter and a graduate of Digital Communications and Media Multimedia at Fanshawe College. Finally, right?
Yep, how you doing?
How do you feel about that?
It's a long time coming. I've been here for the past 3 years, and I can't wait to kind of spread my wings and leave the confines of the college.
Compared to the previous program, what was the name of the previous program?
So I've had a couple programs that I've taken here. The first one I took when I left high school, it was video game design. I took that for 3 years from 2018 to 2021. I took a year off, and then after not being able to find a job in that field, I spoke to a friend of mine who took journalism in Toronto, and he's like, "Well, you're a writer. Why don't you try giving journalism a shot?" And I was like, "You know what? Fine, why not?" I went in not knowing what to expect, and then 2 years later, here we are. And then I graduated from that program last year in June, and then I returned for a post-grad in digital communications management, which my friend Alex, who also used to work at the Interrobang here, told me about. I took his advice, and I took the program, and here I am now, graduating from this program.
So we can say that this last program is like an extension from the previous one, right?
Or
it's different. Always different.
It's kind of different in ways that, like, the cool thing about our program, it's people who took different programs here that are mixed, that kind of combined all the skills that they learned into one nice program. It's here. So, like, for example, like a lot of my classmates came from the marketing program, PR, and then
I see.
2 of my friends from journalism also came with me, and we took this program because there are communications aspects to it, and we got to learn a lot about marketing and digital design and graphic design and all that type of stuff, which was kind of cool. So it's kind of cool to explore different areas of skill sets that I've never learned before. So it was kind of cool.
And after this program, you have done with Fanshawe, right?
I'm hoping for, yeah. I'm on like the hunt to look for jobs at media agencies that I could work for when it comes to doing social media campaigns, writing content. So it's kind of doing what I did here at the Interrobang, but kind of moving it on into a different field where it's like I'm writing content for clients and different ways to basically get readers to, engage and interact with their social media so that they can, increase their brand awareness and stuff like that. So just creating interesting content, yeah.
And meanwhile, you were studying. You have been working for the Interrobang, for the X. How was the experience in both medias?
It was interesting. I first got on here with the Interrobang 2 years ago. Next month. It was a blast working here. I worked on the summer team in the summer of 2023. It was quite an experience. I got to fully kind of spread my wings and write about stuff I was interested in, Also, writing for a college demographic, because when I was working at the X, it was awesome learning how to write hard news and all that type of stuff, right? Learning how to create, web stories and video stories, with whatever's going on in the local community. But then what I really got to be, I think, truly like my authentic self and write about things I thought were interesting, that I thought, people of like the students of Fanshawe would find interesting. The Interrobang really gave me that edge to work on, so it was kind of cool working. And the cool thing is too, at the X we wrote kind of short form listed articles, where here at the Interrobang it was like 500 plus. So I got to be more thorough with the detail, and I got to interview a lot of interesting people as well in the campus community.
And in both media, how did you choose this story? So how did you find that, wow, this story or this person is really interesting for the radio or for the newspaper? I don't know how was the process.
So a lot of it came down to networking, really tapping into your inner friends and like talking, or even just like talking about locals in the community, or even doing research online, right? For the X, it was mostly doing a lot of research into local communities online. One person I got to speak to was, I got to speak with Peter Fragiscatos, who was a local MP on various topics that concerned Londoners. And then when it came to stuff like the Interrobang, I got to speak with a lot of students that I met through the MIA program, who I covered their stories on, just like interacting and like people telling me about their day-to-day lives has inspired me to reach out to them and be like, you know what? I feel like your story is like we need to tell and put out into the newspaper because maybe someone out there might relate to it. So it's good to put it out there, and it's kind of helping the community in a way, and it's also getting their story out, which is awesome. So that's how I really went about it, which was just like mainly networking.
Another person or interviewee who was relevant that you interviewed, or
I'd say a lot of my work this past year, since September, was interviewing a lot of the MIA grads or MIA students. I got to meet a lot of the members of London's underground like hip hop scene, who are like a lot of them go here to Fanshawe, and one group was Fresh Religion. I got to meet a couple of those awesome artists like the Finesser. I met another rapper who goes here. His name's Tristan. His name, like his rap name. And then I met Two Divine and Jack Craven, who again I listened to their music. They're very like it was awesome getting to see them behind the scenes in the studio, rapping and producing what they love to do in their passion. So that was awesome. And interviewing them and telling their story about how they came from, where they came from, and how they got to where they are right now was kind of really cool because I got to also live part of my dream, which was like a music journalist in a way.
oh wow,
But also like to tell their story because I think people like indie artists themselves, whether they're in rap or rock, like they deserve a platform to tell their story. And I think it was kind of cool being able to do that in a way.
okay. So would you like to work for a radio station, or perhaps you would like to write about musicians or artists?
It wouldn't be something I wouldn't rule out. I'd love to work for like Rolling Stone magazine or any type like Loudwire, like those types of outlets that focus strictly on like the music industry. I love to talk about that because again, music is something that's involved in my day-to-day life. And I like anything, whether it's rap, rock, even ethnic music, like, from Latin music to what I like to listen to in Greek music. I love exploring different genres and then finding people who have interesting stories to tell. And I wouldn't mind, kind of talking about them that way.
Well, one of the best things that Interrobang Annex has is the connection with the community. So I would like to know, how did you feel when you heard about the shutdown of the Interrobang?
It was surprising because it came out of left field. I know for every college that I've seen or I've been on, they always have a student voice or they have a college paper that students like to read, right? And one thing with the Interrobang is it wasn't just here on Fanshawe, it was at Western as well, right? I remember when I was working with the I went with a coworker of mine. We were covering a story on the campus at Western, and the Interrobang stack was there, and I saw them on tables, people reading them. It's along with the Western one, Gazette, and it really is a good outlet for students to understand what's going on in the community and in the campus community. Because if you don't, there's only so much that social media could do, right? People's feeds are filled with other things that they're interested in, whereas with Fanshawe or Western, those papers serve as what's going on in the community. So it's like one simple organized feed, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have whatever is going on in the campus community, certain events, stories that, involve students of yours, peers. I think the campus paper is great for that. But when I found out about the Interrobang, closing down, I was kind of saddened to hear because it's like we're now students are going to be left in the dark as to what they're going to be, as to what's going on in the campus community.
That's why I wanted to ask, do you feel students were consulted enough or at all before that decision was made?
I'd say no. I mean, I don't know. I know people, like, again, as I've walked past every single stack pretty much here in the college, I've seen the paper come out on a Thursday, and then I'll come back after a weekend, and it's down to like 2 or maybe 3 left in those stands, and people read them. I mean, I've heard people talking about it in the hallways. People have said, they didn't think that, the college papers might be dry, but they actually like the interesting facts about it.
Or just for practice, that's other comment that I heard, that no, it's a student, newspaper,
practice,
so
yeah,
if
no.
practice portfolio, blah blah blah.
But it's not. It's genuine stories happening with inside the campus community, as it would be like for a community, like a newspaper in the city. again, it's a community within inside of a school campus, and people like to read that because it's keeping them in the loop as to what's going on. And again, with stories they've covered, whether it be someone who I covered from MIA, or a graduate, or a student, or an alumni who's done something pretty miraculous and they're still here, or even for a student athlete, it's important that we highlight those milestones or whatever those stories are, and we put them out there because, again, it's our community. We need to highlight what's going on, and again, it's keeping people in the loop because people like to know about that stuff.
I try to share with all the audience and our readers for sure that I think we didn't perhaps express the idea that we lost the opportunity to not only to share for sure Fanshawe's story, is the voices of the students. I'm concerned about that. And I'm concerned because we had the announcement that the radio program is going to disappear too. So if we don't have the newspaper here in SFSU, right now the radio station could disappear because if the radio program is not here, what is going to happen with the radio? Where the voice of the students is going to be?
Exactly. I'm not sure. I mean, for the students of the journalism program, I think online media, like it goes out to a certain extent. But again, when you're using the power of the radio, you're broadcasting to people's cars beyond the limits of London. Like the X would reach out as far as, I'm pretty sure, like Woodstock to Grand Bend, and people listen to it. You know, people would tune into the radio. They would try to find out, where there's traffic, stuff like that. Like it's a little things,
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about the X is it kept to a really a system where they had regulatory top of the hour, news update or traffic updates, for instance. Whereas like other radio stations, they kind of shake up their formula where they kind of allocate more time to entertainment than it is to traffic and stuff, in my opinion. So, with stuff like that, again, with the power of the radio, you're getting it out onto the waves into people's cars. And as they're driving, when they're preoccupied with something, as they're having in the background, they're still listening, And I think, with that being gone, it's sad. And I'm sad to hear.
Still, Fanshawe will have the 2 years program of journalism, right? I understood that, but if you want to be specifically a reporter for the radio, or perhaps you would like to work for a newspaper or for a communications department, students lost their opportunity. But it's true that FSU is going to try to relocate that students to marketing department. So we'll see. And there is like a new media that is going to exist. Is FSU social media. So we'll see the next steps. But now that you mentioned the X, I would like to know about specifically your role in the X, because I don't know if you only if you were a reporter or you were a host too, or
I was both. So
both? Okay.
During my time as a student there, I was a reporter. We would have shifts where we'd alternate, during the semester. I think we had 2 rounds. When I came back for the first semester of my second year, I was an on-air reporter. So I was in charge of writing newscasts and taking stories from our local wire and implementing them into our casts. And then we had a structure would be like 2 local, 2 regional, so like Ontario, and then 2 national, and then 2 international. So anything that would concern Canadians, I made sure my newscasts had that in there. And then afterwards, when we did that for about a month and a half, we'd alternate, and then I switched to the role of a reporter. And then when I was a reporter, I would go out and cover stories, and then also make videos and make sure that I uploaded whatever content I had to our newswire for our our casters to use in their stories, and then also upload content to the website. So that's what my job as a reporter was for the X.
So right now, in the age of TikTok, YouTube, and podcasts, what role should all the school campus journalism and radio play? Because something that I notice is here, for sure, the newspaper, the radio, but I don't know if journalism is going to evolve to other platforms.
It's interesting because I think they are, because part of our curriculum last year was when we produced podcasts, and we'd have to do news updates. I think they were like 60 seconds long. We'd upload them to TikTok. So we had classes on how to properly format it and how to use the time properly, right? So the one thing that the journalism program here taught us was how to write for different mediums of media. So we were taught how to write for web, how to write for on air, how to write for social media, and how to write for podcasts and stuff. And they all tie into one, right? Which is interesting. It's just they're conveyed differently in a way, if that makes sense, right? So for the podcast, I know we had to produce a trailer, and we'd upload that to TikTok, and we use proper hashtags, and that would get pushed out into the community with whatever we used, and then it would get views, and then that's how we generate, views to our podcast, and also bring in, listeners to the radio.
Mm-hmm. And is there a space or format that you think could become the next big thing for student expression? I mean, related to journalism here in educational institutions. I don't know if you consider that in the next years, students will see the stories or news on.
Yeah, I think for me, it might sound a little bit too not cliche, but it's already here. It's podcasting. Because podcasting not only allows for however long you want it to be. I mean, if you have a podcast that's 15 minutes long compared to an hour, you're generating content that people can just listen to. Again, it's like radio in a way, right? And you can gear it to any topic. That's the cool thing about it. Whether it's hard news that affected the community, you have two people who are there talking about it over a period of time, and then every single episode's different, right? And the cool thing is, if someone wants to listen back to it again, because people like to, listen back and rehear things, it's already logged and available to the user on places like Spotify or SoundCloud, and they can go back and listen to it, right? It's not like once you hear on the radio, it's gone and it's done, right? There's a backlog that people can fall back onto. And also for podcasting, it's more conversational, right? You feel like you're there and you're part of the conversation. It's like you're listening to a TED Talk.
No, but you can say you're watching, because this podcast, you can watch it on YouTube. So that's why I agree with you. It's really interesting to see that and listen podcasts. I mean, for example, you are driving, or when you are doing your own stuff at home. So it's really interesting, the podcast format.
Even if it's pre-recorded, or if it's even live, even on live streaming like a podcast. You've seen different people out there doing it, like Joe Rogan. You see a lot of comedians doing it. People watch it, right? And it's what they do. That's how they also make content too. They'll cut it up into pieces, and then there you have your trailers right there to promote your podcast. So again, it's conversational, it's personable, because it's just two people, and it's like you're listening on the conversation. And it's just, I think that's the proper way to go, which is podcasting.
At the same time, when you create content for the podcast or the video podcast, at the same time you can use fragments to for the social media. That's something that I really, really like, because it's not only that, you must listen the full podcast. No, you can see the most important or the fragments that the editor wanted to highlight on social media. So for us, something that I really like from podcast format.
Yeah.
Now, you have talked about that this is your last program here at Fanshawe, but what is next for you? I understood that you are now looking for a job here in London or in other areas.
I'm looking, pretty much London or any other area like Toronto. There are a lot of companies out there who utilize communications to also, again, like I was saying, we talked about podcasting. A lot of companies are creating podcasting to generate content for maybe consumers to listen to, right? And also create content written wise. So one position I've been looking at is SEO content writer, whatever it is. So it's you're optimizing content that is geared towards attracting and boosting traffic to your website for people to read, right? In a way.
Okay, so CEO or
SEO. So it's search engine optimization. So essentially what you do is you, let's say you have an article that's written, you go through the article and you might add in a few key terms or key phrases or key sentences that will boost the article's placement on like Google, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than being on the third page, if you use more keywords that are in line with what people are searching for, you slowly or over time will get bumped up to like the first page of the results on Google. So that's what you essentially do.
So what is the difference to other job positions related to social media, like content creator or community manager? I don't know if you can explain, because I'm really interested to know the difference if you want to focus your career to social media.
When it comes to content writer, it's probably, I think, for me, content creation can stem from writing articles like we did here at the Interrobang to making podcasts or just video editing and all around stuff like that, because you're creating content that goes up on these platforms for people to enjoy and watch, right? Or just inform and educate. Whereas managers, from what I understand, again, they overlook and they essentially, like we said, they manage these platforms to make sure that all the content's being uploaded properly. They're using and they're optimizing it to reaching the right audience and stuff like that. So one's like you're just creating the content essentially, but there's more to it, obviously. And then the managers pretty much oversee and make sure that the content is reaching the right places.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting to know this, because, for example, I didn't consider the social media before studying journalism in my hometown. So good to know that it's not only important to write or shoot the video, it's the way that you share that story, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. And the cool thing is that although journalism is, it's all communications, they all go in hand. It's just you just have to alter the way you write, right? The tone and the type of content you write is geared differently, but a lot of the principles are still the same.
Mm-hmm. Other question that I have is about if you're planning to continue journalism, for sure. So if you could create your show, magazine, or media brand, I don't know, what will it be?
I don't know. We had to kind of do something like that for one of our last or second year classes in journalism. And one of the topics I wanted to focus on was something, again, it's kind of like geared towards a niche topic. And a lot of people that I know that I'm friends with, they like to know about their heritage and their ancestry. So I'd like to talk about, different people from around the world, different ethnic groups, and dive into their history and give an educational lesson as to what their history was like, where they came from, certain unique characteristics about their language, their culture, their history, all that type of stuff. I like educating and exploring because I'm a huge history nut. So
okay, so we can say that you are a journalist focused on culture section, right?
Exactly,
you love that.
Yeah, I love the culture. Yeah, whether it's music or anything like history and stuff like that, I love that type of stuff.
You love that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
This is almost the end of the podcast, but I would like to end this episode with my last two questions about how would you like to remember the Interrobang and the ex?
Exactly. I think for the ex, it's the people I met and got to become friends with over the past 2 years. You got to spend a lot of early mornings and like not late nights, but late afternoons with them, doing around the clock news roundups and whatnot. Writing interesting stories, meeting new people too through the community. I think that was pretty cool. A lot of funny memories and stuff like that a lot of my friends and I talk about once in a blue moon whenever we see each other. And then when it comes to the Interrobang, I think for me, the key memorable things is obviously getting to work and meet people in the Fanshawe community. But I think writing about and working with people that in the summer when I was here as a summer content reporter, I like that a lot because I got to form a close team with a bunch of people, and I don't know, make again long lasting memories that I can never forget. Like I always still reminisce about them, right? So.
For sure.
Yeah.
For the students who feel discouraged about the loss of both platforms, your final thought, or perhaps something that we hope that media can continue here in other way, but I don't know if you have comment about that.
Don't let your voice go unheard. the Interrobang is a student voice, and if you want to advocate for it and voice your opinion, do it. I know for me, the past 3 years that I got to work here, I got to write about interesting things that appeal to the college demographic. And if you want to continue to see and see content that's produced like that, voice your opinion and get the word out, because it's only possible when the students put in the word, and I think that's what needs to happen.
Thank you so much, Consta. It was a pleasure, and it was the first time that I could interview.
Yeah, it was interesting being on the other side of the couch. Yeah. I'm the one that interviews, so yeah, it was awesome. Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to another episode of the Red Couch podcast. You know that you can catch up with every episode on our website or wherever you get your podcast. We have Apple, Google, Spotify, and if not, you can watch full episode on YouTube channel and subscribe to our newsletter. For the Interrobang, I'm Gracia Espinosa.